2 minutes later. Hey everybody, welcome to a steamy FabFit Friday here in Connecticut. I feel like we have finally gotten to a little summer weather. Let me just fix my ponytail. And this is my bad. I was trying to plan a bunch of projects, and you know how when you someone asks you to do something and they say, oh, I don't need it till blah, blah, blah. And then you're thinking to yourself, wow, I have so much time to get things done. And so I said yes to my daughter that I would make a t-shirt quilt for one of her friends who's retiring from school. And then it just snuck up on me, because she needs it for the 12th, and that happens to be the day that I'm flying home from Grand Rapids, Michigan next week. So I need to get this thing done, you know, like I need to get it done like today and tomorrow, because I have a lot of other things to do to get ready for my workshop. Hey Mary, hey Susie Berry, welcome ladies. So I do want to work on my underwear project that I started a couple weeks ago, but I have to finish this first. So in the spirit of FabFit Friday being, you know, a time when I share things I'm working on, I'm gonna spend a little time with you today and show you what I've done so far on these on this quilt, and then you know, there's some tips and tricks for you. And then I'm gonna move on to continuing to finish it, so it'll be done. So it was a little bit of a surprise when I looked at my calendar this week and I realized, oh geez, I don't have as much time as I thought I did. Hey Janie and Barbara, welcome, welcome. I'm sorry I'm not working on the underwear. All right, so let me show you what I have done so far. And the cool thing about making a t-shirt quilt is that you can you know, make a keepsake that somebody will love using, you know, t-shirts they don't wear anymore. These make great gifts for grandchildren, children, you know, people retiring. They're just a really fun project. So I want to show you my process and how I got as far as I got, and then I'm going to continue on here, and then I'm just going to finish it up. But basically, when you're working on a t-shirt, when you're working with t-shirts, you can't just cut them out and sew them together, because you know they're knit and they stretch. So what I did was to plan the overall design for this quilt, and these are just some of the t-shirts that I'm using here. You know, basically what I did was I looked at the pile and I found the smallest square I could make. So looking at the designs on the t-shirts and using a square ruler, I could quickly lay it down on top of each t-shirt and decide, okay, out of all these t-shirts, I can make like a 13 by 13 inch square. So that was my first step in planning out this quilt. Hey Leon from Cape Town, welcome, welcome, welcome. Today we're making a t-shirt quilt, so it's a non-garment topic today, but it's going to be fun. Hold on one second. Just want to get this. All right, so if you have a ruler like this, some sort of square, you can lay it on top of your t-shirt before you cut anything out, and then you can kind of, it'll give your eyeball a good guide for how big you can make the squares. So I ended up cutting out 13-inch squares from the t-shirts, and you also want to plan how big you want to make it. So basically what I did for this particular quilt, and I'm going to show you a picture on my phone. This is not the final arrangement, but it's really important if you're gonna do this, you want to lay them out on the floor. So let me just show you here. So this was an example of after I cut them all out, I laid them down, and then I actually had my daughter come over and she arranged them the way she thought she liked them. So, you know, having a place where you could lay all your squares down and then, you know, rearrange them to an order that you like works out really well. Down here, there were a couple I didn't want to use, so I also got a substitute. So that's how I planned it. So you can see I have 4 rows, or well, I have 5 rows of 4 or 4 columns of 5, and I think that will make nice dimensions for a little lap quilt. So that was the first step. Then after I organized them, I made them in a pile. So now they're in order in a pile, and I used my cotton fuse interfacing, which looks like this. And the reason why I like this cotton fuse is because it snips and rips. So literally I could tear 13-inch squares of the interfacing. And then I fuse them on. Now, a huge time saver, and of course, if you don't have one of these, I don't recommend running out and buying one. But if you have one in your closet and you forgot, I have a one of those Elna presses. Let me show you what that looks like. All right, so this is my Elna press. I love this thing because basically what you do is you put the t-shirt with the interfacing on, and it does like the top half, close it, and there's a timer. When it beeps, you know, you lift up the lid and then slide it back, smooth it, and I was able to press all of the interfacing onto all the squares with two, you know, in 2 positions here, and it saves time, and also it just does a nice job. So if you have a press, this is the Elna press. I've had this for a very long time. I don't even know if they make these anymore. I'm going to be completely honest with you. There's a little tab here that you can shut, which holds the handles together. I think I can get that to, oops, hold on. I haven't used that in a while. Let me see if I can get it to shut. Nope, I can't. So that's how old this is. Like the little thing to hold these together doesn't work, but everything else works. It's a really cool thing to have. Oh, DIY Girl says t-shirt quilts have been on your list. It's a good. So you're glad I'm covering. Well, I'm glad this is interesting to someone. I hope you guys are not bored by this, but I literally have to fit this in, and I want to get to the underwear, but this needs to get done first. Oh, you have a press. It distributes the heat over a greater area. It does. And then also, this prevents you from rubbing. There's no rubbing. You literally just, you know, put it in there, clamp it down, and it does its thing. So, love the press. So I use the press to fuse the cotton fuse onto all of the t-shirt pieces. Put this back. Okay, and then after I fused the cotton on, I squared them up again because, you know, squeezing them down and pressing them changed the edges a little bit. So I made sure they were all uniform size. I think I trimmed them back. I trimmed them down a little bit smaller. Let me see what I actually ended up with here. Yeah, so I have a 3/8 inch seam allowance. So I probably trimmed off, I'm sorry, 1/4 inch seam allowance. So I trimmed about a 1/4 inch off all the edges to then square them back up. So my squares ended up being 12 3/4 inches. So I had my pile of squares. They were organized into rows. The next step is I found some quilting cotton, and I cut just a ton of strips. Now these strips are going to go between all the squares, and they're also going to be the binding. This is just going to be a real simple quilt. I'm not going to do a wider border around the outside edge. I'm just going to have, this is a finished, like probably 1 1/4 inch border, and then I'll have the 1/2 inch, I'll finish the, edges with these strips, so it'll be just a skinny border. And actually I'm looking at this now and it's really skinny. I might have to just fold one edge, we'll see. But basically I cut all of the fabric out, and now that I'm realizing I maybe wanted to make my strips for the binding a little bit wider, we'll see. But basically I cut all of these out so they'd be ready to go, and then to sew them together I sewed them on the bias. So to sew the strips together, here's what I did. I basically took the strips, and I think that it just makes it a little less obvious. Oh yeah, for the binding, Mary. Binding. My strips are a little bit skinny for binding. I'm gonna have to figure out what I'm gonna do with that, but I'll worry about that. Sorry. It's almost like this is on a speed quilting project, so I got to get it done so fast. So I might have to find another fabric for the binding if I can't make these skinny strips work, we'll see. But basically, to sew them together, I put them right sides together like this, okay? And then to sew, I'm not gonna sew anything because I still have plenty that are sewn together, but basically you sew from here to here, like this, okay? So after you sew it across like that, and I'm going to pin it just to show you. So I just went through and I basically, sewed together many, strips of fabric cut on the width of the fabric. So you sew it together like this. After it's sewn, you just cut off this little extra, like this, 1/4 inch, and see what that gives you is a nice seam for your borders and your binding. And I just think having it be on the bias like this makes it a little less noticeable. All right, so that's how I sewed my strips together. Then, after having my strips ready to go and my squares are ready to go, and my pile, I had my pile in order. So I know that there's 4 t-shirts that go in a row. So what I did was I sewed a strip to the right side edge of the first 3. So I sewed it here, I sewed it here, and I sewed it here, like this. And then I just put this in the pile. So basically, for each row, I sewed a strip of fabric to the right side of the square, and then I piled them back up. Then I went back and I pressed, and if you look at this, I don't mind showing my back because it's nice and neat. Basically, I pressed the seam allowances out towards the strip, and then after I pressed all of the pieces, I then sewed the rows together. Okay, so first I had them just on the right, I pressed, and then I sewed the neighboring square to the strip on the other side. So I guess my point in telling you this is, if you work on this sort of in a production kind of way, like even if you're not trying to get it done in a super hurry, it makes it more efficient if you have your pile of squares, put the strips between the squares, but sew them just to the right edges. When you get to the last square in the row, you don't need to put one because that's going to be a border that's going to go all the way around. And then press and then sew it to the other side. And basically I had to trim them even. So if you notice, I'm just going to zoom in here so you can see. See, this is nice and straight. After I sewed this border onto this square, I trimmed it, I left a little extra, and then after the rows were done, I sewed them, I squared them up. So now there, I have my 5 rows like this, and the next step was to sew a strip of fabric across the entire bottom edge of each row. And I'm saying that out loud, and I screwed up because I sewed, well, actually, I didn't screw up in this case. I guess I could put, you know, do one on the top as well. I already did one on the bottom row. I already sewed this on. I was thinking, oh, I'll do that separately, but it really doesn't matter because there will be a separate strip there. So anyway, but sewing the you know, sewing the strips of fabric across the bottom was the next step. And then I press them, and of course I'm pressing it everything the same way. I'm pressing the seam allowance down towards the strip. And now the next step is to sew the rows together. So I have my next row, which is right here. And I had a little disaster with the iron, so I wanted to share this with you. When you're working with t-shirts, you have to be careful that the iron is not too hot. When I was pressing the border around on these 2 t-shirts, the iron touched this and I melted some of the S here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wash it, and I'm hoping that some of this black that the iron smeared all over this t-shirt will wash off. I think it will. It's been rubbing off. Then I'm going to take a black fabric marker and try to make that S look a little bit more filled in after I wash it after it's finished. So that's what I'm going to do to try to rehab that little S. So this is just a reminder that when you're working with t-shirt quilts, if there's a surface design, you want to make sure that the heat of your iron is not too hot. I had other squares that had like that puffy pen on it, and I had to be careful there. This one surprised me. I didn't think this was going to be a problem, but I did screw up that little S. So be careful with your hot iron. So at this point now, I'm going to turn this like this, and the whole goal here is we want to line up these rows so they kind of line up like this. So if I zoom in here, you can kind of see. I want to make sure when I sew this together and then I open it, it'll look, you know, nice and straight when I open it up like this. You know, in my intersections, I want it to look nice and straight. So what I'm going to do is I'm carefully going to line up the, and actually, you know what I think I'm going to do? Because this is one of my pet peeves with quilts. And of course, you know, I'm not an expert quilter. I just dabble a little bit in quilting. But basically what I want to do is I want to take my, I'm going to take a ruler, and I'm just going to mark like this. I'm going to use the long straight edge of this row strip like this, and I'm just going to mark where that is like this, and I'm going to mark it over here too. Of course, I'm marking it in white, but okay, so I'm just going to use my chalk like that, and it's hard to see, so I'm just going to take my pink pen, one of my pink pens, and I'm just going to put a dot in the seam allowance here. So see right here, I'm just going to put a little dot, and here I'm going to put a little dot, and that way I can line the rows up better. And actually I'm gonna forego the chalk because I really can't see it. I'm just gonna put little dots in the allowances here. And this will help me position the rows together accurately. If you guys if any of you are like an avid quilter and you have another tip for this, you can feel free to share. I just want it to look reasonably, you know, put together nicely. So I've got my little dots. So now I can take the row that gets stitched on like this, and I can match those dots up with the seams right there. So see, there's my dots, there's my seams, and that will at least get it to seem like it's, you know, they're lining up. I'm going to be using my new favorite pin. I love, love, love these forked pins because I feel like they really hold the fabric down. And when I'm sewing, I'm going to have this be face up because I want to make sure I don't flip any of these seam allowances. So the band will be against the feed dogs. So that's how I'm going to sew that together. So basically I'm going to line up my dot with the stitching line between, you know, the border like that. And then I'm going to pin it like this. And like I said, I really like these forked pins. They do not come apart. And I'm going to pin each intersection, and then we're going to sew it together. So that's how I'm going to sew all the rows together. So again, I'm making sure the dot is right in line with the stitching line. Like this. Okay, and I'm just going to work my way down here. See, putting the dots right here, I think just make it easier to see what you're doing. You know, and because I'm not a pro quilter, I need all the help I can get to make it look like I'm doing a neat job. I'm going to pin my seam allowances so they're going in towards the strips. And really, I only need these 6 pins because the rest of it I'll be able to organize as I sew. So let me just... Yep. All right, so that's going to give me a good, you know, accurate way to pin. So now I can go ahead and sew this on. And I think what I'll do is I'll set up 2 rows. So this is the first and second row. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the next 2 rows, the third and fourth row here, and get that ready. So this will be the 3rd row, and here's the 4th row, like this. And you can see I was so excited to get my progress going here. I actually sewed 2 of the rows of t-shirts together before I put the strip of fabric between them. I got all excited, and basically I just sewed it together like this. And then I took it up, I opened it up, I'm like, oh, I forgot to put the fabric in there. So that's why I have this row of stitching across these t-shirts. But basically, I am going to, again, make my little dots here. Like this. And again, I'm putting these dots like literally right on the very edge of the fabric. They won't show okay. All right. Okay, so in other news, also, if you guys have signed up for if any of you have signed up for the wait list for my J Stern Designs YouTube Insider Club, we may actually be launching that in the next, maybe Monday. But I just want to tell you, I am so excited about it and all of the things that are going to make life so much easier to find things around my channel, plus more fun. I'm so excited about that. So if you haven't gotten on the wait list for that yet, I think it's in the description below, but I will be sending out more information about that over the weekend because it's getting really close to being finished and tested and all that other stuff. So I'm very excited. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and pin these together. And then we're going to sew these 2 rows. Hey, Denise. Denise from New Brunswick, Canada. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Today I'm doing a project that's really not my typical kind of project. I'm busting out a t-shirt quilt. And of course, I'm assuming that my my daughter's friend who's retiring from teaching isn't a fan, because normally when I make things that end up being gifts for somebody, I don't share them until after the fact. But I feel pretty safe that I don't think this very nice teacher who's retiring follows me on my YouTube or my Instagram. I think I posted about it yesterday on my Instagram. Okay. I think for my daughter's benefit, she was like, you know, Mom, I need that quilt. I'm like, I know. So I think the fact that I posted about it yesterday made it, you know, Abby feel better, because she knows I'm working on it now. I've had a lot of other fun things to do this week. It's been a very busy week. So I taught a how to drape, draping 101 for pattern review on Wednesday, and that was a really fun class. That's the first time I've taught that class, but I showed how to drape a straight skirt, and also I showed how to add flare by clipping the allowance above the waistline and then letting the weight of the fabric fall. That was really a fun class. So I did have fun with that. But it was a lot of work because it was the first time I taught it and I had to make sure everything was perfect. So I did spend a bunch of time working on that. Oh, Tana says quilt making is my former area of expertise. Back in the day, I was licensed NQA teacher. It brings back memories. Oh, it's so much fun. I honestly wish I had time to work on projects like this more often, because I mean, I find it very satisfying to make things like this, you know, because at the end, you know, you do all this cutting and pinning and measuring and cutting and pinning and sewing, and then at the end you look at it and you're like, wow, it came out so cool. All right, Tana, if you see me doing anything off, let me know, because you know I am not a pro at the quilting. So, and I apologize if you can hear my fan in the background. It's really warm up here today. All right. So now I'm going to sew these. I am going to sew these rows together, and remember, I wanted them to be face up. I'm not using a 1/4 inch foot. I am using, let me just lower this a little bit so you can see. I am using my regular straight stitch foot, and I'm just keeping track of where the edge is on the needle plate to get my 1/4 inch. So it's pretty accurate, but I wanted the dual feed versus putting my shank on and having just a regular 1/4 inch foot. Okay. Okay, so as I get to my intersection, I'm just going to go real slow and kind of take the pins out, as you know, leave the pins in there as long as I can without sewing over them. Important to put these pins right side up because they're bent, right? So when you take them out, they're easy to take out because they're bent like that. But you can see they don't fall out and they really hold everything nice and secure, which is really helpful. Now this is an eye trickery thing because my interfacing didn't make it up to the top of the t-shirt. So it looks like I'm sewing crooked here, but it's just, I'm even with the edge of the t-shirt. I like to get my needle in the seam allowance before I take the pin out. Okay. Okay, so I can see I'm going to have a little truing up thing going on the end here. All right, we'll look at that in a minute. Let me just sew this other one. I've seen these quilts made in a way where people just sew the t-shirts together and they don't have borders, and that's not wrong either. So, you know, putting a border on is just an extra step if you like that look of a, you know, of a more traditional quilt. Oops, I'm sewing on this the wrong way. Well, I have my seam allowances and not going in the right direction, hopefully. I'm not going to switch it, but you can see now my pins are upside down. So I have to take it out a little bit sooner. I think we'll be okay though. The first seam allowance is okay because it's going in the right direction. It's the second one that I have to make sure. Okay. All right. We'll compare and see if this worked out okay. Let's see what we have. Just gonna put this on the ground for a minute. I can get my pressy thing and let's see how we look. Oh, Denise is saying something. I watched most of your videos, started to sew last August. You have helped me so much. Oh, I'm so happy to hear that, Denise. That really makes my heart happy. I love sharing things here on my channel and helping people. And sometimes, you know, what I'm working on might go off the rails, but, you know, but I think, all right, so this is the one I sewed upside down, but I think I'm pretty happy with my intersections. You know, as long as they look like that, I'm okay, right? I want it to look, you know, accurate. Yeah, I think those look okay. Yeah, I think that'll be okay. All right, so to press these, I like to press them upside down first, so I can see what I'm doing. So I press the seam allowance flat. Oops, let me show you what I'm doing here. Hold on, let me make this higher now so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so I like to press from the wrong side first to make sure I'm not screwing up any of the allowances. Oops. And then I'm going to turn it to the right side and give it another good press. And so it's also really helpful if you press as you go. So I already pressed this one and now I'm pressing this one, because if you don't press as you go, it can get a little bit of a, can be a little bit hard to manage. So now I'm going to press this. And again, I'm going to be careful that I'm not ironing over anything on the t-shirts that are going to melt. But I literally found this fabric in my stash. I felt like I needed a little bit of a color because there were a lot of squares that were white. A lot of times, you know, if I'm doing a t-shirt quilt and I've got all colors, I'll use white for my borders. But because I had a lot of white t-shirts, I wanted to use something that had a little bit of color to it. And I happen to have this in my stash, so yay. All right, so there's one piece. I'm just going to hang it over my jib. And then let's look and see how this one came out. So again, I'm going to just going to press the wrong side first. Uh-oh, I think something happened. We'll look at it from the right side. Okay. All right, let me flip this over. Oh yeah, something got funked up here. So in order to get this to match right here, I have a little bit, the borders gathered a little bit, but you know what? I think I'm just gonna press the daylights out of it and leave it, because I am gonna quilt too. So see that little bubble right here? Right here, see? Whoops. There's like this little bubble right here. So to get it to match, I think I, you know, had to squish the cotton. So I am just gonna give that a really nice press, and then when I quilt it, I'll make sure it's stitched flat. Because what I'm gonna do to quilt this is I'm gonna quilt around all the edges of all the things. All right. Now see, this is not even over here. I ended up with a little boo-boo right here. So see this one sticking out a little bit. I'll just even that up later, this little bit right here. But basically now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take this one and I'm going to sew it to this one, like this. Okay, so this one's going to go on here now, but you can see I'm starting to get a really cool looking, oh, I think this is going to be really pretty, right? So this one I'm going to, before I do anything, I'm going to get my little pink pen and I'm going to match, so I can match those up. And then I have one more row to put on. You know, maybe I could get away with a little 1/4 inch binding here, right? Because it's, the binding is going to be the same color as the fabric I used for the borders. So I think I can, maybe I'll be able to make a skinnier thing. Okay. All right. There. I've done that. Now I'm going to take this and I'm going to put it right sides together. And we're gonna line up these. I'm gonna sew these on. After I finish sewing this top, I'm just gonna show you what I'm gonna be doing for the backing and my batting. I'm gonna show you the batting I have. And then I'm gonna sign off and I'm gonna keep working on it. But I promise you, when I get back from, so next week, I am going to Grand Rapids, Michigan to do a pants fitting workshop. It's a middle of the week workshop, so it's a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday workshop. So I will be flying home late Thursday. So I will be here next Friday with you, and I'll give you, I'll let you know how the workshop went, and maybe I'll share some fun pants fitting, pants fitting stories. And then also, I don't know if I have time to work on my underwear, but I will come on and share the fun we had in Grand Rapids, and also, maybe I'll work on the underwear a little bit. I am dying to see how that works out. So see, when I was using these pins and I was pinning from the other side, look at how it potchkeyed up my seam allowances on the underside. So I want to make sure when I use these pins that they're working properly and they're actually holding down my seam allowances like that. So you have to be careful, look on both sides. If you've got seam allowances on both sides, just make sure that everything's laying flat. So I feel like everything has a downside. Like, I love these pins because they don't fall out, but then also you have to watch and make sure you're not, they're not messing up the back or the underside that you can't see when you're pinning. So I'm just going to pin from this side face up. Like this. Okay. All right. Okay, so let's sew this on. And actually, because those pins will stay nicely, I can also go like this, and I'm gonna mark, I'm just gonna mark my bottom edge, and I'm gonna pin that, and then I can sew them both on at the same time. So if I were using straight pins, I probably would just do one at a time, but like I said, this really holds it nicely. All right. All right. Okay, so I've got that. Let me get my last row right here. And I'm just going to stick it on like this. And again, let's turn it around so I'm pinning on the side I need to see. Okay. So again, I'm matching up my little pink dots. Okay. All right. I floated in the pool last night. It was freezing, but it was my first float of the season. My water is not company ready, but it is safe to float in. I'm pretty happy with the progress we've made, considering we never closed it last winter. All right. All right, so I'm just going to finish this. Oh, Victoria's here. Really nice quilt. I'd like to make a couple cover up those chilly winter nights. I'm practicing hemming with my side cutter foot on my sewing machine. I'm halfway there, half adhered. Ooh, that sounds exciting, Victoria. These are really, I've made so many of these t-shirt quilts. I made one for my nephew Matt when he went to college out of all of his, soccer t-shirts, and You know, I've made them for my girls, volleyball t-shirts for my girls, t-shirt quilts for my girls. Like, it's just a nice, you know, it's a nice memento. I've also done this with felted wool squares. So like if you have a bumper crop of felted wool, you can cut squares and do the same thing with the felted wool and make felted wool blankets. Okay. All right, so I'm going to sew these last 2 rows on, and then the top will be completed. So I'm actually kind of excited because when it dawned on me how quickly I had to get this done, I was thinking to myself, oh my goodness, I'm going to be screwed, but it is coming together really quickly. I did all the t-shirt squares one day, and then I fused all of the interfacing on another day, and then today I did all the cutting and sewing. So, you know, if you can space out your project and not try to, you know, work on it all day long, start to finish, I think that makes it a little bit more enjoyable. And I am kind of excited that I had everything that I need to make this quilt in my stash, which makes me happy too. I did hear some shocking news in the sewing world. You know how we're losing Joann's? I heard from a friend that the big 4 pattern companies are going out of business as well. And that's terrible. Of course, I'm thinking to myself, wow, I really have to rebrand my patterns and get my pattern line going. But I just think it's incredibly sad that there's going to be no more Vogue Simplicity McCall's, or Vogue Simplicity McCall's, and what was the 4th one? Butterick. They're all going out of business. Oh, Mary's asking, did you say what you're using for batting and backing? I'm going to show you that in 1 minute, Mary, as soon as I finish sewing these last 2 rows together. I'm kind of excited. These fabrics that I'm sewing with right now are from my friend. I have a friend who passed away, I don't know, 8 or 9 years ago, and these quilting cottons are from his stash, and then the batting will be from my mom's stash of supplies that I inherited from her. So I feel like that makes it extra special. All right, so I'm almost done with this row, and then I'm just going to do the last one, and then I'll show you. Okay. All right, I'm on my last square over here, and then I'm gonna do the last row. Okay. Oh, I ran out of bobbin thread. Let's see. Oh, I only lost, it's only this much. Do you hate that when you, you're sewing along and you think you're sewing great, and then you run out of bobbin thread? Let me see if I have a separate white, so I don't have to take that off. Oh, I do. Here, I'll just wind a bobbin with a different thread, so I don't have to unthread my needle. That'll work out. All right, hold on 1 second. All right, let me just wind this bobbin. Oh, oh, sorry about that. Okay. All right, so I got my bobbin wound, and I didn't have to take my needle apart, so that'll save me time there. All right, so let's finish sewing now. Oh, I'm glad I didn't run out of thread halfway through. All right, this is exciting. I just have one more row to sew together. Where is it? Here it is. Okay. All right. Okay. Last one. There's some puffy pen right there bumping up. I have to just help it a little bit at the beginning. Oh, I'm sewing on the wrong side again. Well, I didn't notice a huge difference, so I think it'll be okay. Taking the pin out at the very last second. Alright, I'm going to stop there, and I'm just going to flip it around because I really am more comfortable doing it on this side. Alright, let's go this way now. You'll see what I mean. Like, I think it's just easier to see those seam allowances. Oops. Okay, let me just finish this up. I'm almost done, and then I'll show you the backing and the batting. You know, I guess it makes sense. Well, I'm thinking about this whole Big Four pattern company going out of business. I'd have to imagine that Joann's was one of their biggest distributors of their patterns. Like, imagine not having Vogue anymore. Like, or, I don't know what calls. I don't, it's just very sad. All right, I'm almost done. Okay, so we're coming to where I stopped. All right, yay. All right, let's see what we have. Okay, let's take a grand look at this thing. Oh, it came together really nicely. Let me see if I can, how big of a view I can show you. Okay. right, so I am pretty pleased with this. You can see there's the bottom row. And, you know, I'll press it. But basically, I'm going to put, you know, I'm going to put the, this around the whole outside edge as well. And then for a backing, I have this fabric that I'm going to use. It's like a wheat, I've had this in my stash for a long time, so this is going to be the backing for the quilt. And then I happen to have and then I have this package of Quilter's Dream cotton that I'm going to use. It's beautiful, soft and warm cotton. It's a twin size, so it'll be big enough to make this project. So that's what I'm going to use for the batting. So backing, batting. All right, so that's all I'm going to work on here. Let me just see what people are saying here. Let's see. RK is saying, I really hope someone buys the catalog of all the patterns so we don't have to completely lose access to all that history, and can't imagine Vogue magazine being willing to lose all that history. Oh, Vogue magazine stopped, someone said. Oh, Vogue. Oh, you mean Vogue, the fashion magazine? Yeah, maybe. Mary says, I get emails advertising their patterns. I wonder if they will stay online for a while. And Barbara subscribes to their website, but there's very few new designs. There were very few new designs. Yeah, I know. It's so sad. Like, I don't know. I feel like, you know, Joann's is closing, and then in my hometown, my Agway, which is, they were sold or something, the name changed to Smithfield. That's also going out of business. That's where I buy my dog food. And that's right down the road from Joann's. And now I heard about this, so it's just kind of yucky. I mean, maybe Vogue magazine will take it up. I don't know. Vogue, the fashion magazine. I do subscribe to that. I subscribe to Vogue and Thread, so those are the two magazines I actually subscribe to support print, which I think is super important. But in any case, this is really exciting. When I finish this quilt, I'll go hang it outside over the fence, and I'll take a picture and I'll show you how it comes out. But I am excited because I really think I can possibly even finish it today, or at least get it together so maybe I can get it quilted and then do the binding tomorrow. But it's like I need to quick get that stuff done, because I also want to get some videos done for next week when I'm gone. But I will be here next week after getting home at like midnight from Michigan after teaching all day on Thursday, so I'll be tired. But I will share with you what happened during the pants fitting workshop. If anything fun happened, I'll share that with you. And I'll get my underwear project back out, and I'm very excited to work on those because I'm feeling very hopeful I'll be able to get a pair of underwear to fit me. Very excited. So I'm sorry I had to take a break from that, because this, again, sort of snuck up on me. But in any case, that's my report. I hope you're all having a wonderful weekend. And yeah, so that's my report. Thank you guys for watching. Mary, I'm happy to see you here today, because I will tell you that I didn't see you last week or the week before, and I was worried a little bit. I'll be honest, because I didn't see you. So I'm glad that you popped in. So thank you for popping in. Oh, and also Mary's asking, how am I going to quilt it? Yes, I'm going to stitch in the ditch up and down the rows on either side. So I'm going to stitch, well, probably I'll stitch around, well, I'm going to go in rows. I'm going to stitch on just the inside of the border, because I pressed my seam allowances in. So I'm going to stitch just inside the borders, you know, so I'll go across and I'll go the other way too. So that's how I'm going to quilt it. Yes, and I will share the finished project because, like I said, it's going to be finished either today or tomorrow. I'll take a picture of it, and then Abby's going to pick it up. It's going to be gone, but I do want to show you how it did come out. And I'll take some close-up pictures of some of the details, you know, like the binding and stuff. So that's my report. All right, so I hope you guys have a nice weekend. Thank you for coming. Thank you for doing a little quilting with me. I know it's not my usual, but I'm having fun doing this, so I have to admit it's a nice break from working on fitting and working on things that I normally work on. So every now and then, if I get a chance to do something creative, I do. So there you go. All right, I'll see you guys later. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next Friday. All right, bye.